All right, all welcome back to the Arcanaverse. Thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful day. We have a special guest with us, Nohbob, a senior game designer from Standing Stone Games and star of the hit series on YouTube, The Joys of Deving, with your friend Bob Hess. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. And for those of you that don't know you yet, please introduce yourself, sir.
Okay, hi. My name is Bob Hess. I go by Nohbob on the forums. I've worked for Standing Stone Games for a good long time, and before that, I worked for Turbine when it was Turbine, and then WB Games when it was WB Games. I've been working on these specific MMOs off and on since 2007, and I started working on DDO then, and then I hopped over to Lotro, and then I took a little California vacation, worked on a couple other different games, and then I came back, and I've been lucky enough to, for I think about 11 years now since I've been back, and I've been working on both Lord of the Rings Online and Dungeons and Dragons Online. I do primarily content work on both games, and it's been really exciting. I've been having a great time, and I really, really enjoy both of these games. I'm an active player of DDO. I play Lotro from time to time, not quite as much as DDO, but yeah, I dig this game, and the community's been a lot of fun, and so yeah, I'm glad to be on here. Thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate you having here. It's been a long. I'm so happy to be able to have you on finally. But yeah, no, I could absolutely vouch that you're a legit player of DDO. You're actually a member of the guild that we're in the same guild.
Yep,
Reaper
yep,
Casual
yep.
on Thrain. So I won't reveal your
Ye-
character name for your own personal reasons, but it's just cool
Yep,
that
yep.
it's been awesome to hang out with you on many occasion.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
lucky enough to get a chance to do some stuff with Reaper Casual folks over on Thrain, and then I have a smaller group of friends which also plays on Cormier, and that's my weekly game with a bunch of friends which we've been playing actually almost solid for the last 10, 11 years, but since launch, like when the game launched, we all played, and we have you know we've been playing since then.
Frankly, that's probably the most impressive thing I've ever heard. Is being able to keep a weekly gaming group for since launch is insane. Well done on that one.
Well,
I consider me jealous.
we've been playing a lot of different other games, but but probably when I started back up on DDO is when we just settled into playing DDO, and so we've been going for a good long time. It's been fun.
All right, so to get a better feel of your day to day,
Yep.
in my head, I think you're like one of the primo. You're primarily working on actually building out the quests. Is that fair to say?
So yeah, for the most part, when I'm working on the DDO project, I'm a content designer. I do mostly doing content development work, and it's physically building the spaces, building the stories, building the encounters. Sometimes we like make the bare bone shells of what the monsters are and like what types of monsters we want. But we don't do a lot of the statting work and stuff like that. We also do a bunch of writing. We do all the writing and sort of encounter placement and all that stuff, traps, all those types of things. And so when I'm working on DDO, that's primarily what I'm doing.
All right, and just because you've mentioned it and you've alluded to
Yep.
it again, what do you do something different for Lotro?
Uh, yes and no. I over there because it's a different content model. It's much more theme park MMO. So I do a little bit of quest writing, but over there I also do instance design. But it's more kind of classic 3-person or 6-person content with raids and stuff like that. So the sort of the sense of it and sort of the feel of it's a little bit different. But I primarily do dungeon content while I'm working over on Lotro, and that's what I'm currently starting to work on now that I've finished up most of my work on the XPack. I essentially go work from XPack to XPack on the two different projects. I'm one of two designers which do it over here.
All right, and just for my own personal questions, do a lot of is there a lot of trading between developers between the two IPs that Standing Stone Game manages? Because for those of you that don't know at home that may be watching this for the first time, Standing Stone Game manages two MMO IPs, Lord of the Rings Online and Dungeons and Dragons Online.
So
Yeah.
So on in the design disciplines, they're really separated for the most part. I'm one of for a long time I was the only person who would go between the two games just because I have a really good familiarity with both content tools stuff. But recently we brought back one of our former developers, and he's also bouncing between the two. He did a bunch of the decoration and space design in the upcoming expansion, which is super cool. And for the most part, but for that part, that's more separated. Now, we have a bunch of interdisciplinary or inter team groups, which is pretty much all of the other ones, like anything from community to our art team. And also our engineering team, for the most part, is separated, works on both games, but some of them will primarily work on one or the other. But for the most part, those are more shared resources. It's just the design staffs are more separated into two different games.
Which makes sense. You like to
Yep.
have a lot of speciality, right? Because you
Yeah.
live in this world. You are
Yeah.
world builders, for no lack
Yeah.
of a better
And
term.
I mean, one of the guys which has been doing world building over on Lotro has been I think he's almost at 30 years working for all the way since Ashron's Call 1 and has gone all the way up and through. And he's sort of one of the big lore people over on Lotro. And folks have familiarity in what they know. For me, I've been playing D&D since I was a young kid and been, playing these types of games for a good long time. And I have a pretty handy familiarity with most of this stuff. So, and been playing editions since way back in the red box days. So
Do you remember
yeah.
your first D&D character?
Yes, it was his name was Boo Boo, and he was a fighter magic user thief. And I was lucky enough to play with my elder brother and a bunch of his friends, and they brought me along, and they were nice enough to let me play when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and they were all 12 and
Oh
13.
wow, that's
So
great,
it was
man.
a good time. It was good times. It was some great runs, all that sort of stuff, and really stuck with me. I mean, I'm lucky enough, and like I am super lucky, and really, really, I can't express how like thankful and lucky I am to get an opportunity to work in this space and all of this sort of stuff. But like all of those, all those games and all that type of stuff really kind of built the framework for it today. So
Living the dream, man. All right, well, speaking of
yeah,
living the dream, so when you
yep,
first started your tenure, I guess this would have been Turbine way back in the day.
yep,
Brought
yep.
on Wide-Eye, Nohbob, stepping into the dev space for the first time. Do you remember like your first like task that you were assigned?
Okay, so when I came over to Turbine, my first job over there was working in QA, and I was working on Lotro launch. As a developer, the first time I did developing at Turbine, I worked at another small MMO game company for a little while before then. I actually worked with Aladrin at that game company before we came over to Turbine. But the first thing that we did was I came in with a whole bunch of content designers, and at the time I was on the systems team, and essentially they sat us down in our building thing, and we had to like use assets and make a short little like uh 30 like probably about a minute or 2 minute like shell of a dungeon just to kind of show, hey, this is the type of thing I would build. And I ended up building the mine tracks and caves that led to the lava spewing head, which is in Enter the Kobold. They actually took
Oh,
they took my previous start of a dungeon and then appended an entire dungeon on the back end of it, but like that little like minecart area, and then I actually had made the whole kobold with the lava spitting out. So
oh,
it was
that's
super cool.
awesome.
It was super cool. But back then I was on the systems team, and I did a bunch of item design and stuff like that. The first couple of years when I was on DDO, I was doing systems tasks, and those are pretty separated disciplines. And back then, it was even a little more separated. But yeah, I was doing mostly item design, some of which sticks around today.
Name one. I'm
Well,
kidding, but yeah.
no, no, no.
Do you know of one? Do you know of one? I mean,
Well, like it's somewhat problematic, but given the time and what it was supposed to do at the time, I worked on the entire Dragon Touch sets. Like I did
I
that
like
entire
Dragon
system.
Touched a lot.
Yeah, it was neat. It was a fun system. We also had a whole bunch of questions around, and we needed something which had a long tail, and that's why originally there was the whole thing with how you had to discover each of the individual bits. And I also loved how players figured out all the different bits and pieces on if you stacked a couple of runes together, and you could tell what it was if you figured out one and the other. And it eventually kind of became a little more of what I wanted to, but also sometimes when you're a designer, they're like, hey, we need a long-tailed loot system, which will last for a very good amount of time, and players will churn through and it's very repeatable. I'm like, okay, this is my thoughts, and then I built it. I also did a bunch of the initial starter sets with set bonuses, like yeah, like when we set up Korthos and all that stuff. I did a bunch of that stuff.
Oh,
So way back
shoot,
then.
yeah. That I still use today for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
every level
No,
one
no.
character gets that stuff put on. Yep.
Sadly, I don't remember all of the individual items. Oh, I also did stuff like Levix bracers and a bunch of the original set bonus items. I did a bunch of that work.
So we're talking like Livix bracers. Is that Ravenloft?
No,
No,
no, it
no,
was
no. That
it
was
was right
it
around.
was like
I'm trying.
Vision of Destruction.
Yep, VOD
Yeah,
and all of that sort of stuff,
yeah,
all
yeah.
the heroic stuff. It was before we did Epic, or before all of that stuff, and so it was mid to high teens, most of the content that I worked on. So yeah, that was great, and that was a lot of fun. And I hit a point where I was interested in doing a little more content, and the Lotro team was like, "Hey, we have an opening to do Lotro content," and at the time they were full up over on DDO, and I went over there for a couple of years, and then I came back, and I ended up after I went out to California, came back, and I got rehired to be a content designer on DDO. And
Oh, we're certainly glad to have you back.
yeah, dude, I was super psyched. It was really cool getting a chance to work on a couple of different projects, check out some cool stuff. I got a chance to work on Firefall and Wildstar while I was out there. And so, I managed to work with an amazing group of developers while I was out there, and some of that stuff was super, super cool. And then I came back, and I've been doing content design on both games, but I've done a ton of DDO content, and it's been a lot of fun. I love making DDO content. It's good times.
You got some Wildstar fans in the chat, man. That's great.
Wildstar was a fun game. There were some upsides, downsides to it. I still mourn the loss of that game. I think some of the raid design in that really set a bunch of stuff up for patterns on what people are doing from now till this day. Like a lot of the telegraphing and everything like that was one of the games that was an early adopter in that, and then Final Fantasy XIV took it, and even after a whole bunch of teeth pulling, finally WoW's doing a bunch more of it too. We of course do some of it, but not quite as much. But all of that stuff was procedural on Wildstar. It was fun. It was great.
I gotta check that out. I'm very sheltered in my my online gaming experiences. I do mostly just DDO, so we're trying to branch out. So it's cool to give me some reasons to check out some stuff. So appreciate that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like there was some real neat stuff. At some point, remind me to shoot you over a video or two of some of those raid bosses, just so you can see some of the stuff that they're doing.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. If you
So
guys are, if you're ever looking up, look up X-89 or Experiment 89. That was one of the first raid bosses, and it really kind of set some of the stuff to do. And to this day, I've wanted to do an homage to it in DDO, and maybe one day they'll let me do it. So we'll see.
oh, it's canceled. I see people are
Oh
saying
yeah,
it's
no, no,
canceled. Oh
yeah,
no. All right. That's unfortunate.
yeah, I've worked on 3 canceled MMOs. The first one was Rubies of Evenstar, which was the first one I worked on, and then I worked on Firefall, and that died, and then I worked on Wildstar, and all 3 of those unfortunately were canceled. Great game, great developers, a bunch of really really cool folks. It
Yeah, it's
happens.
always sad to
It's
see an
just.
MMO
Hmm. Yeah,
not
yeah.
sustain. I mean, there's so
It's
much work that goes into that. A lot of love. I know MMO designers typically are very passionate about what they do. They get very involved in the world and the community and all
yeah.
that kind of fun stuff. And, it becomes their identity in many ways.
Lots of hours, lots of times you become, you become someone who gets known through any of those types of things, and it's a part of your life. It's like the design field is something which is, it's filled with passionate people, which really feel strongly and have a lot of conviction towards their stuff. I mean, it's one of the interesting and challenging portions of working on this game. You can have 2 people which completely disagree, 100% respect each other's opinion, are on completely different sides, and neither one might be right, but
yeah.
but you have to fight that fight because you have this passion and want to. Discuss it and move it. Yeah, it's
Oh, man.
it's it's good times.
All right. Well, I'm going to circle back a little bit here on you. We were
Yep,
talking
yep,
about things that you have added to the game.
yep,
One of my big questions is when you're adding NPCs and building out areas, is
yep.
there any stuff that you've put in that is like a personal Easter egg to you that you'd be willing to share with us?
Sure. I mean, one of the other things I worked on when I was doing system stuff is that I was one of the people who made a lot of the initial hirelings and stuff like that. And so when it came time to actually name them, there was 240, uh, fantasy names that I had to come up with, and I've done tabletop RPGing. I've done live action role playing, LARPing, and all of that sort of stuff. And I tons of my friends have their character names immortalized in this game because of that. And some of them are still in the game today. I mean, one of the low level vendors, Grudug Meat Hands, is one of my really good friends, Ron, who I play with today. If you happen to ever get a chance to be over there and you run into Grudug, he's in the harbor. That is the name of my buddy Ron's character, and it was a character that he played in the RPGA years and years ago, and it's fun. Like, it's one of those things as you go through, and your friends' characters and all of that sort of stuff. As you go through, you use those names. You make connections and all of that sort of stuff. And even to this day, like, you'll see a gnome with the name that starts with SNEB. It's a reference to one of my buddies who always played a character. It was Snebley and all of that stuff. And it's one of those things that goes on, from time to time. Also, naming some of the quests, you look at different things, and some of them are pop culture references and all of that stuff. It's always fun to do. If I can tip my hat to the wonderful people which I happen to have surrounded myself in my life, and the characters that they invested time and all of that sort of stuff, was it's something that you should do. I spend many hours playing this game and working on this game, and so taking references and examples, and as long as they're not like horrifically copyrighted or any of that stuff, it's kind of important.
Well, I have an embarrassing confession to make. I don't remember where the harbor hireling vendor is.
Okay, take a left. Go to the end. Go past where where the Lords of Dust stuff go down the road a little bit.
Oop, can't go
Okay,
that
go
way.
to the left, go across the bridge. Nope, nope, not down below. Go
Oh,
to
no,
where the
it's
Lords
up.
of Dust quest giver is. Is that him right? Nope, nope. Keep on going down. If you keep on
There's the
going
Armament
down,
Bender. There's the Armament
and
Bender.
then it's
There's
like to your right, and then go down a little bit further, past where the trainers are. I think it's over on the left. I can
this is where I first
Nope.
went.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Discount Hirelings. There he is.
Yep,
Grudug,
yep.
there he is.
Right there, right there. That is
There he
Grudug Meat
is.
Hands. Yep, yep.
Okay.
And that is a half orc character that my buddy played years and years ago, and yeah, that's the sort of homage that you can do. It's great when you get an opportunity to do that. Um, it's
Of
it's
course,
also it's also really fun when you're doing script writing and all that sort of stuff. You find ways to include folks.
quick
I've done a
question. Well,
little.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
First, because I noticed that your anniversary NPC is also a half orc. Was your whole
Yep.
party half orcs? Was that?
No, no, not at the time. I think that more has to do with someone else was making the character, and they're like, "Well, what are you gonna make?" And they're like, "We'll just make it a half orc." I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like that sounds good."
Okay.
I mean, for a while, the character referenced some of the other games that I worked on in the anniversary dungeon. Like it talks about different places that I've went, and seeing things that you wouldn't believe to be seen, and it was more talking about the other games I developed on. Like it was fun
Yeah, I,
times.
yeah, I admit I took a quick look at your different lines you used to say, and some of them I recognize, like one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them. That's obviously a nod to Lord of
Mm-hmm.
the Rings. Not all who wonder or lost. I don't remember where that's from, but I do recognize it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but
And
I've seen things you wouldn't believe. I've seen meddling or
melding tornadoes.
melding tornadoes in Exile's Burn. Is that a WildStar
Yep.
thing?
So the first part was a firefall thing. It was one of the
That makes more
one.
sense.
Oh, that was one of the encounters that I made on there. Essentially, it was a random encounter that built off and was one of the activities that you did. And then Exile's Burn was Wildstar, and that was one of the two factions because it was a two-faction game with PvP.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So one question from chat here, real quick, that is on
Yep.
topic is did you put the Manchester United football team into House D depth chain?
No, I did not. I was not working on doing content stuff at that time. However, tip my hat to whoever did it. We have a bunch of friends, folks which are sports fans and all of that stuff. And so yeah, no, I'm sure one of the designers at the time was like, yeah, let's go, let's do this.
So, Gree, you may have to show me after the show what you're talking about. I am, a football fan. I am not. I've gotten into it kind of recently from a couple shows like Ted Lasso and
Yep.
Welcome to Wrexham. Like, oh, that like sports told through that story medium, I find a bit more entertaining than just watching the actual games.
Yep.
That's just me.
That Wrexham
But yeah,
documentary is fantastic. It's good
yeah, they
stuff.
did. Yeah, an excellent job on that for sure. It's like I'm surprised how much I liked it. It was like, why am I watching this? And, I think I was sick or something when they first started doing it. It was like, what the heck? But kept it on. And I watched the whole first season. I was like, can't wait till the next season. Like, this is really good.
Going up in chat, someone was mentioning the poor ES folks. My heart goes out to all the developers in the last 2 years have been exceptionally brutal for the development community, especially most of the line end folks. So many really gifted and capable developers, and it's heartbreaking to see a game like ESO get hit, and I know a bunch of folks that were affected by those, and it's just brutal. It's it's heart wrenching these days.
Oh, absolutely. Not,
Yeah.
I mean, like the players, obviously, but like, you said the development team, all the staff that have been working on that, building that community for so long. I just see it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, like,
Um, Sorry, go ahead.
and as a person who works in classic long term, like long tail MMOs, every time you see one, having troubles, it just, your heart hurts.
All right, but in more positive news, is there any other NPCs we could visit or items we could look at
Let's see.
that you
I
can think
don't
of off the top of
know.
your head?
Not much off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I should have actually built a little bit more of this sort of stuff. See, we should. Have you talked to Flimsy Firewood? Have you had an opportunity to do so?
Well, I'm sure I have in the past, but if you're going to ask me to pull it off of memory, I'm going to fail you.
No, no. Because at some point you should really bring him onto the show because
Oh, the
he's a
actual
guy
developer. I
who.
thought you were talking about the NPC in the game. Holy
Oh yeah,
smokes.
no,
I
no,
had a
no,
moment
no.
there. But
No,
Flimsy?
no,
Okay.
he's one of the developers. He does a lot of he's currently one of the people he was one of the original writers of Brawn Pits, and so he's done a bunch of that stuff. He's the guy which did the Sleeping with the Fishes, with the two people going on dates across all of the different expansions and all of that stuff.
Oh, I
If you
love
ever
that
get a
quest.
chance,
I love that one. That was good.
yeah, 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 and it'll be interesting to see the next time that they show up. But but yeah,
So, all right.
he did a bunch of stuff. He also did Amber Temple. I still love some of the stuff that happened in early Amber Temple because we were going off of a book, and one of the things is that there's a whole bunch of negative curses, and so he built a bunch of them, and one of them on the launch day happened to enable group PvP. And so yeah, you and
Yeah.
how we found that out was hilarious. I think I was playing with Strim and those guys, and and I was playing a bow build uh, with improved shot, and I shot through three different people. I killed two of them, and yeah, it was bad times.
Like, huh.
It was funny
Well,
times. It was bad times, but it was hilarious. But yeah, no,
you
no,
gotta
no.
laugh at that, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That stuff, it happens, and people they try things, and it's one of those things. Is like one of the best things about working on DDO as a whole is that you have a lot of creative control over the decisions that you want to make within the space of a dungeon. Like when we're building dungeons and when we're setting up dungeons, essentially we agree with this is the framework of the pack that we're going to do and all this sort of stuff. But really, you're handed a blank slate, and here are a couple different bits that you have to go off, and then it's like go make a dungeon. And then it's really up to you to make that determination of what's that thing that you want to do? Like, what's the cool little wrinkle do you want to do? Do you want to try to put a little bit extra? Do you want to put a bunch more stuff into it? Now, there are some challenges with that. Sometimes, development concerns the amount of time you have and all that sort of stuff means that not everything can be super fancy, can't have all this different complexity and all of this sort of stuff. But you can essentially sink yourself into a hole real deep if you want to do something super complex or try something a little bit out of the box. And it's really exciting, and it's one of the coolest portions of doing content design on this game. Yeah, like it's just a great opportunity.
I yeah, like I said, you're kind of living the dream. I'd love to sit
Yeah,
down and be in your shoes for a little while. It sounds super fun and
it,
uh
it, it is
rewarding.
super
You
fun.
know?
It's super fun. It's super rewarding. It's super challenging. There are some days it feels like another job, and some days it doesn't. Like sometimes I feel like the luckiest person, and some days, my computer's crashing, or I'm fighting with Excel, or IT stuff has gone sideways, and it could be any other job. I have friends, when I was working in systems, I'd spend, in a release, I'd probably spend, I don't know, like 4 weeks in Excel files, and I had friends doing accounting, and they're like, what do you do on your day to day? I'm like, I opened up an Excel file, I hit a button, and I did work, and I did that same data entry work that other people are doing. It's just when I get done with it, I hit a button, and there's a magic item with a bunch of effects on it. Or I did when I was doing that work. I'm no longer doing that work, but it's cool. But also, we're passionate people, which are all gamers and all that sort of stuff. And so, like, someone makes a decision in balance or something like that you disagree with, and there you are on a 3-day long like disagreement because you're both passionate people, which have like empirical evidence and all of this sort of stuff, and player sentiment and feedback and all of that stuff. And that part's tough because you're passionate people which care. And if you don't care, choose,
Oh, well, this community, they must really care because we
Yeah,
always have a ton of ideas. So, but don't always doesn't
yeah,
always mesh. But the
yeah.
passion is 100% there with our hardcore community.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a part of it, is like the community spends a lot of time and effort and looks through things and builds things and does a ton of different stuff. They have an opportunity to spend a great amount of time, uh, you know, doing itemization stuff, doing character builds, doing a lot of stuff, and doing all of this fleshing out stuff, and it is a huge amount of time in engagement. And then also you have anything from going through and doing TRs and all of that sort of stuff. And if you're 20, 30 TRs into a character, you're going to have some feelings because that is a lot of time spent and that's a lot of engagement that you've spent in the game. And so, of course, you're going to feel strong. Now, the method and means in which people, feedback, sometimes it's more
Yeah,
useful, sometimes it's a little less
yeah.
useful, sometimes it's a little more caustic, and sometimes it's really helpful. And a part of one of the challenges of being a developer is that a part of the feedback process is the ability to take feedback from what people are saying and translating into something that's actionable on your end, uh, that works within the framework of what we're trying to do and what we've been doing. And it's really, really challenging. Like, yeah, I know people are 200 TRs in. I I play with them on the regular. I am not quite that far in. I kind of go through cycles playing DDO, but I do have characters which are probably 15, 20 TRs in. And I also have a whole bunch of characters at cap, and I have a couple characters. Some of it's boxed, not much of it. I play a lot.
I
Like
box a lot. I'm not ashamed to admit
uh,
it.
I I I
PR is not where
I
my enjoyment from the game comes from, so
that
it's all right.
that's
Each
fair.
player
I
own
use
way.
my first box in about probably 5, 6 years this week. So
There you
you know,
go.
it wasn't
Yeah,
too bad.
see, one of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
I was.
speaking with the deving, I come from more of a card game background in my
Yep,
dev experience, right? So it's like,
yep,
you talking about feedback hit close to home for me because like you get feedback from the players a lot, and they see these imbalance issues and like, you got to nerf this card, and I'm like, yeah, but do you know why you need to nerf that card? Do you
yep,
understand the ramifications if we changing it the way you're suggesting? And that quite often, more than I thought, because when especially when I was newer at it, it was like, that's not the actual problem. The actual problem is, these two cards over here and how, the speed tempo of the game. Then when this comes down, it's like, it's really, we need to make the adjustments over here. And like all of a sudden, the pieces fall comes over here. It's like, you gotta, all that feedback. It's like, all right, what's the real root of the issue? And like, I think that's a talent that is, the
yeah.
developers somehow like acquire or intuitively get, that just,
I
I don't
mean,
think it's talked about enough. You know what I mean? It's because it's real special.
I, I mean, and that's where you see veteran, the better and the more veteran developers. I mean, that's a big portion. My ability to enact and take in feedback from any number of sources is amongst the reasons why I get paid to do this. Like my ability to look and sift through feedback from Discord or through the forums or from wherever, and like how can I enact on this, and and it's the translation. It's translating. This wasn't fun. Okay, that amount of information, I understand that that is someone expressing their personal frustration with the moment, but finding out that something isn't fun, but not having any clues of why this wasn't fun or what was going on, and you find out, oh, they died 10 times in this particular dungeon. Why did they die 10 times, or like what happened to cause these particular problems? And then you can actually build actionable feedback, which you can do a whole bunch of stuff about.
So here's a
And it's
tricky question to
sure.
follow up on that.
Okay.
So like when you do find something actionable, like what's
Yeah.
the route you take to like come up with a solution, right? Where it's kind of like, all right, say like, man, this pack of mobs is just demolishing players. Like, is it always that easy? Like, oh, we'll just, decrease power. Do we adjust the monster count? Do we like change positioning? Like, is there a,
S-
a
s-
guide in your own head that kind of like, all right, well, this is
s-
how I would approach a problem solve?
So in some of these cases, it's also a challenge because some of this stuff is cross-disciplinary. Like if a monster's skills and abilities are doing too much damage on DDO, essentially what I need to do is I need to talk to uh, the systems team, and a lot of times it's Torque, but sometimes it's the other folks, and be like, hey, we're seeing this spell overperforming, or we're seeing this happening, or this particular monster has these three spells on their spell list. Is it okay if we remove them because they're too damaging, or they shouldn't be available in this type of thing? But also, it's essentially you have to have like, hey, when I'm looking at this, was there a mistake made? Are there too many monsters in this pod? Is there a way that these two groups of monsters get too close and create a a a form of portion of content which is unfun? And then do you separate those groups apart? Are there ways that you can change the makeups of the group? Can you swap it out for another type of monster or NPC? And like, what is the actual piece for you to do it? You have a lot of different levers, and it's essentially looking at it being like, okay, this is the type of stuff. And also, I may not know the ramifications of changing the spell list on this particular monster, because maybe it's used in these 7 different places, and all of those places, it makes a lot more sense for them to have it there rather than just in this place. And then maybe what I have to do is I have to make a new monster and have them build that information out. Like it's essentially trying to diagnose and being like, also being willing and frankly being able to be like, hey, I have this problem. This is what's happening. I think that this is the fix. What do folks think about it? And having those open and honest communications about that across the team and amongst the team members is also helpful, because sometimes you get stuck in a place where you're like, I have no idea what to do. Does anybody have any suggestions? Have you seen this before?
Yeah, no, speaking of collaboration, I'm going to kind of jump down that rabbit hole a little bit. You're talking about disagreements earlier, and like,
Yeah,
how, sometimes you have that infighting more or less. Like,
yeah.
do you guys have any rituals for solving that? Like, is there a general tiebreaker? Do you have like a big meeting and like have a
Well,
debate there or something?
a part of it is that you just have to have a like. It's a little bit challenging, but you just have an acceptance that people are making the best decisions that they can given sort of the stuff. And if there are times that we need an arbiter, I'm sure we can go to people which are in
Well, I
management
mean,
or some of
to
that
be
stuff.
fair, let me let me
The,
let me clarify on you just a little bit.
yeah.
I don't mean like actual fights. I'm not looking
Oh
to air dirty
yeah, no,
laundry,
no, no,
but
no,
it's like when
no.
you have
But
like two
the
competing ideas, right? That are
yeah.
like both have a lot of merit. It's like, all right, how do you guys resolve,
But
like, all right, which one gets the nod?
normally, what it is at that point, if you have two decent, like competing concepts in the same space, is that you bring other people into the conversation and essentially like, here are our two ideas. We need a little bit of help, kind of, deciding which one's which, and you have to have sort of you kind of have to lose the ego and be like, understand that your idea might be the one that goes out the door, and you have to be willing to do that. Like, you have to be willing to compromise and also, make those decisions. It's not always pretty, it's not always tough. You can still be grumpy about it. You can look at a decision that was made, 5 years ago and be like, man, I'm still grumpy about that they went this way. But sometimes you look at stuff and you're like, wow, that turned out 20 times better because of these decisions and what's going on.
All right, so quick interesting question from chat I think we can
Yeah.
talk about a little bit is that basically tips for the colorblind. I know we have a lot of colorblind community members in our community, and I know you guys do a lot of like subtle uh indicators in game to help those with with that. But is there any other tips you have for like colorblind players that you might have, or do you guys like, is that how top of your mind is that kind of content when you're putting things together?
So when we're trying to build stuff, a lot of times we try to remind the content designers, like, okay, are you using colored gems as a set of things to do? And given the fact there's a big gamut of this sort of stuff, so can you do a color gem, but then also rotate that gem 90 degrees because we have oblong them? Or can you set it 45 degrees and essentially make it a visual pattern on top of a color thing? And that's sometimes things that we go through and polish, but it's something that we have to keep into it. And also, if there are real challenges with specific problems that you have as a colorblind player, and you run into it and you want to give us that feedback is always welcome. And it's something that we can make adjustments on. It's not something that it is something that we try to do. It is probably something that we are not as diligent about as we would like to be, given timeframes and stuff like that. But also, if there are specific places or specific times when that stuff happens, maybe we can figure out something to work on it. Over on the Lotro side, we managed to do something where some of the targeting reticles are able to be shifted in colors in the options, and maybe that's something we can bring over to DDO. I don't know in particular because that was kind of a huge endeavor over there, but that's like something so that things were a little bit more readable and a little more usable. But it is something that we'd love feedback on and something that we can talk about it. I mean, I years ago I played what was the City of Heroes with a whole bunch of my friends, and it was a family of three brothers who were all colorblind, and finding out through their experience, like a lot of the stuff they were doing was really challenging. A little funny, but sometimes challenging. The little bit of funny thing is though they were making superhero costumes and like, how does this look? I'm like, no. No, you got to change that and that and that. But otherwise, it looks good. It's like this is what I want, and I'm like, okay, well, select this and this and this. And I know that it's not meant to make fun of what's going on, but like it's something that we probably could be better about. It is something that uh, when time allows, we try to make adjustments and changes. And if you actually do find places where we could do better about it, mention specific dungeons, stuff like that. That'd be really great. Be really helpful.
I think your guys' biggest enemy at this point, because I know you guys do a lot, but you're probably your
Hmm.
biggest enemy is resolution and UI scaling, right?
Yep.
You're trying to look at these small shapes. Everybody's got all these high resolution monitors now, and everything in the game is super tiny. We can't I can't see nothing, and I'm not colorblind, so like they got to be still struggling.
I mean, it is. There are some portions of working on what I could only describe as an elder game engine that can be a little bit challenging and frustrating. But hopefully stuff comes up and we're able to address some of that stuff.
Yeah,
I know
fingers
that
crossed.
we've done a bunch of that work over on Lotro, so I'm hoping it'll find its way over to DDO. But that is way above my pay grade.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm not trying to pin that on
Yeah,
you. It's something,
yeah,
I know the officially it's been talked about on more than one occasion.
yeah,
Community's been clamoring for it, but like we clamor for a lot of things too, to be fair, and we get it eventually, right? So like, like lag fixes was
yeah.
really huge recently, right? all that
Yeah,
kind of fun stuff. So I have faith, and I cannot wait for it to happen. Oh, 64-bit servers too. That was a big, huge
yep,
upgrade.
yeah,
Especially now with the launch of Cormier, and then now everybody's on 64-bit. So
yeah.
man, it's
It was a
fantastic.
lot of it was a lot of growing pains. It was a lot of stuff. I know it was bumpy for the players, but in the end, we've done a lot of really good work. Now, is there stuff that we
It's worth
still
it
need
long
to
term.
do? But like
Sure. I mean, yeah.
the game is much more playable than it was 2 years ago, before all of these changes, before 64-bit, and before the whole bunch of lag stuff. Like, the game is a lot more fun, and you still run into stuff, but it is in a better shape than it was.
Yeah, no, amen to that for sure. It's night and day uh between those two fixes, going from the old 32-bit to trying to chunk through raids, and then like now it's
Yep.
a lot more fun. It's so much more stable. So yeah, it's a huge appreciation on that one.
Um,
Um Sorry, go
just
ahead.
just real quick, I'll answer one of the chat questions about 64 to 64. I don't know. That isn't my work. That isn't the type of stuff I do. As a person which has characters on Cormir and Thrain, I will tell you that I am a vocal proponent for it happening as soon as possible, but I don't know what the time frame is. That is, I really make dungeons for the most part. Like, I have some insight into some of the other stuff, but like that, and also when you guys know will probably be about when I find out that it is good to go. But yeah, I'd love it. Come on. I'd like more
Hey.
characters over on Thrain. Well, maybe not Thrain. This could be a lot of people. It'll be tough.
All right, so I know you probably can't show us anything new that's coming up that's not already been announced or whatever, but
Yep.
uh I'm gonna pull something from Steel Star's interview that we did last month, and he was able to show us his like personal live dev area. Do you have something like that? Because I almost wonder, like, I don't almost want to take a preview of your tools if you'd be willing to show us.
Um, Hold on one second. Let me see.
Yeah, I gotta get up.
Well, let me share the entire screen.
Yeah, we ever go back and polish up old dungeons such as Tangaroo and Thranel? I'm willing to bet you'd love to get your hands back on that old content.
So I don't know if you can see
Oh,
the thing
let
that I
me.
streamed.
Yeah, I can now.
Uh, so I don't have a particular internal stuff like that, but there are always times that we would love to take a look back at old content and all that sort of stuff. Like, one of the things that I was just playing through some stuff, I was taking a look, and every once in a while, you want to find out, why is a quest 15 minutes long? And what needs to be done when you want to address something like hold for reinforcements. And so you take a little bit of time and you take a look into it, if time allows, and all that sort of stuff, and you can take a look at it. It's one of those fun times. Maybe it's going to be 5 minutes instead of 15 minutes. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I can't guarantee that it's going to make it in there, but it's one of those things that we enjoy getting an opportunity to take a look as we have time. It is one of the challenges. I mean, one of the things is that looking at this as a thing, and I apologize for the speed at which I'm flying around. Yeah, that's going to really.
All right, just real quick. Did you and Wrath like talk about this beforehand? Him asking about Thranel and then you showing us a Thranel quest?
Uh, No, we didn't talk about it, but he was very grumpy about the 15 minutes because I needed a Mantle of the World Shaper the other day, and we were playing it, and the guys were really, really grumpy about sitting around for 15
Oh,
minutes.
no.
So I looked into it. I was like, oh, hey, how hard is that to fix? And the answer is, this is also in client what that specific space looks like. It is a much older space, and trying to figure out how to do all the timing and all of that type of stuff. Um, I said that I wanted to look at it, but it's fun. I mean, one of the things we like to do is we love to polish stuff if we get an opportunity. We don't always have the time and time frame to do it, but it's one of the things that we can do. The answer is that this is a proprietary tool that we're working in. This is called World Builder. This is not an active game client. This is actually our engine, and it is a visual. It is a it's a visually sorry. Essentially, it's a visual representation of all of the objects in the game world and how they connect. I went into this. If you ever get a chance, go check the Joy of Deving thing out. I kind of went into a lot of this stuff. I do a lot of work in this tool, but this is essentially an example of one of these spaces and one of the things that we're working on. I have my own little space, but I can take a check real quick and see what's in there. It'll take a second for it to come up, but it's probably got a bunch of NPCs that I was using as placeholders or me futzing around with traps and things like that. And it's just like it's a part of the process of doing this. If people have questions about this stuff, these are essentially all the different locations that you can teleport to, and it's a part of like the day-to-day work that we do.
So that is the
And
tool that I
so,
wish I had access to the most, is what you're telling me. That's fair. Okay.
yeah, yes,
So now
yeah,
I know
yeah,
what it looks like. Yeah.
and so what this was essentially a space where, one second, I can look over here and go to toolbars, toggle bars. I'll do the content geometry. And one of the things that I'm doing here is taking a look to see what does this space look like. And then if I open this up, sorry, it may not show up, but essentially like I can change the look of the building, of the bits and pieces on the inside from this particular set. And you can see, okay, this looks like Lamortia, this looks like Koperu ruins and stuff like that. And so one of the things that I was doing at the time was I kind of wanted a visual representation of a bunch of what those things look like as I go through. Let's see, I'll speed up a little bit, go down, because this also lets me build stuff. You can go down, and I
Looks like you're like Interstellar or something here, my guy.
Yeah. Well, the idea was that I was building out a space, and I was looking for how to do certain things. This was a ladder test because I wanted to make sure my ladders worked. Let's see. Do I have other stuff in it?
I love the lore behind all of the ladder stuff in DDO.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's one of my favorites.
Let's see. This was Invecta Unleash. It looks like I was working on the saga givers for it. I have turn-in tokens. I was probably doing dress-up for these characters, and essentially making different visuals. Over here, what is that? Oh, those were the original teleports to the Dragon Pack. So let's see. Dragonborn 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's probably black and blue in those. This is NPCs for the Archon stuff. And then this looks like all of the TOE NPCs to make sure that they loaded and I could look at the stuff. And so this is all different stuff that I set up to take a look and, futz around with as I'm building.
This is pretty neat. So, you
Yeah.
got quite the little setup here, man.
Yeah, well, you get an opportunity to do this stuff. You kind of set stuff up. Let's see here. I'm making sure that these are the teleports to Fall Fest to make sure that they worked when I originally did the first 6 dungeons for Fall Fest. Uh, I'm sorry, I called it Fall Fest. That is wrong. That is the internal name for the Halloween event. It's called Fall Fest over on Lotro, I think. What is it? It's in Dolaris.
Yeah, it's I keep
Well,
calling it Mabar, but I
yeah,
don't think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it's called
It
anyway.
was, yeah, it's whatever Maybarg
Night
became.
Revels, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the Night Revels.
I keep
When I
calling
was
it
doing,
Mabar. That's what it used to be called. It was Mabar.
yeah, yeah. When I was doing Night Revels work, that was so that I could test all the teleport entry, and like this is one of the levers for all of this sort of stuff. And so, getting a chance to futz around with that stuff is good times. Yeah. So this is it's a little bit of our tools and tool usage, and you get to futz around and make things work. And this is, yeah, different codex stores and all that stuff. And it's probably when I was testing a bunch of different stuff. So yeah, each of us have one of these, or not all of us, but some of us have these spaces, and it just gives us a place where we can interact with an NPC and be like, "Hey, is this person doing the thing?" Or do I want to save a quest teleport in a different place before it's supposed to go active, so that I can be actively working on something which is, 2 development cycles away or something like that.
All
I'm
right,
sorry,
neat.
I'm sorry I was facing towards the screen that I was working on for a while, but
Oh no, that's fine.
there you
No
go.
worries. I'm not looking at my camera either, so it's not a problem.
All right,
So we got sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna
Continue.
shut that down. So
Oh,
I'm
fair
gonna
enough.
stop streaming that.
Yeah, we'll bring it back into focus
Unless
here.
other stuff comes up as a portion of that, we can take a look.
No, appreciate it.
So yeah,
Appreciate you showing us. It's cool.
yeah,
You can see definitely a lot more of that on the Joys of Deving series, which I'll go ahead and paste up a link in chat so you guys can check it out.
yeah. I
And for
really
those at
enjoyed doing.
YouTube, I'll put on the YouTube description as well, so people can find it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed working on that. I thought that that was a lot of fun, giving a chance to actually see players, see an active portion of what's going on with this, and actually see what it takes for a day-to-day person working in our tools to do it. Now, I hope sometime in the future we get to do another one of those, but that's really up to like player feedback and how much we want to show some of that stuff. I also kind of want to show folks the other side of the Lotro stuff, because I think showing people how they go about making monsters and doing dungeon encounters and stuff like that is actually pretty different, and is also interesting and pretty compelling. So yeah,
I think there's definitely an audience for it. I know I always find it interesting just to, especially all the artifacts that get left behind. It's like, oh, I worked on this thing, and then like, oh, I got abandoned or cut content.
yeah.
So before I ask about cut content, Chief asks, is there some type of database backend you use to store characters? Or and NPCs, I imagine, or just assets in general. I assume there has to be some sort of thing that you pull from. Um,
Uh,
but
so are you talking about? I guess the question is it more like player characters, like people's actual characters on live servers, or is it more talking about individual like NPCs and stuff like that? I know
mm,
that's a kind of open-ended question. I'm just going to mute for a
yeah, I assume the latter, but he may have meant the former. Because I mean, I
Yeah,
know that. I
like
mean, like you have to have some sort of database store, but
so
live
so
character
live.
storage is the clarification.
So,
Yeah.
so there are so any character that is on live is saved somewhere. I don't know the back end of specifically what it is. However, in times when we want to, we can do stuff in which we copy characters to our personal like our personal databases or into our QA testing worlds to look at characters and stuff like that. And sometimes we do that. I mean, I have a couple of my live characters which I currently have in my development environment. so that I can test different stuff. Like if I just want a quick level 34, it takes a little while to build a character which is level 34, even with like mediocre guild gear and stuff like that. So you can do that. But like the
You
specifics
just called our guild
of
mediocre. I heard that.
what?
You just called our guild mediocre. I heard that. I'm just kidding.
That was not the guild that I was talking about being mediocre.
Oh,
I
right,
mean,
right.
yeah, like we've had some tough lives, you know. Every once in a while you look over at that plus 20 box and that means oops, I made a mistake. You know, that's how I feel about plus 20 boxes. And you know, I've made a couple of well, I've been making characters, so it happens. But yeah, like I can't really go into that. Like that isn't stuff that I know a great deal about and I don't feel comfortable about. But there is
That's
like a
fair.
place where we do that. But like we do have the opportunity and ability to actually copy a character and move them to a text file and then bring them up into a different location and stuff like that. So we can bring them for internal testing, and really that helps with some broken characters and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And two, just for chats, and Chief, just to help you out a little bit, like places like DDOaudit.com and stuff, they pull a lot of character information. They have they have an API set up. So like if you're looking to like build something that like to pull in character information, there's stuff out there. If you want to look for it. Because like once upon a time, I'm you know, nobody you might remember they had my DDO, which was like the public facing character stuff. So it's a lot of that same information. But you know, it still kind of exists in pieces out there. But in any case,
secrets in the Terror of Demogorgon. That would be telling. Go find it. If there are some, maybe there are, maybe there are not. Yeah. I wish we could. You know, I'm sure some folks put together some stuff, and you know, it'll be fun for people to find. You know, if there is or is not stuff for people to find.
Fingers crossed, my guy. Fingers crossed, but it's okay. Well, we're gonna look regardless, so it's not a problem. If there's something to find, we'll find it one way or another. But to keep it, a few people have asked this question a few times. This is when the new server transfers are going to happen. That's kind of, again, that's really not Bob's specialty. He's more of a content maker, right? He builds dungeons and stuff like that, so he's not really the charge of the database server stuff. So just wanted to kind of get that out there and address that, so you guys don't have to keep asking. That's okay.
I understand that people are very passionate about it.
Yeah, we're
always feel free to ping. Talk to folks on the forums about it. You know, talk to Tolero, talk to those folks, and just re-emphasize your want about that. But like, man, like if I knew, then you guys would know.
You had that magic wand, am I right? Man, oh man.
Yeah,
really wish we had those magic wands just to make things happen. But speaking of magic that didn't happen, I was curious if you could recall any content that you were like, man, this is really cool, but unfortunately had to get cut. That you recall any stories about.
Sure. I'm gonna share my screen one more time, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah, it's highly encouraged.
Let's bring that back up. Let's see if this will come in. All right. So looking at this is Slavers 2. This is one of the dungeons I made. It is exceptionally too long. But did you know that originally it was supposed to be much longer?
Oh, wow.
So there was an entire thing here with this entire bit here with an entire trap room that was supposed to be set up here. And this was another secret area. And so essentially that wing of it, I'm sorry if it's a little, this entire wing of it happened to get cut in the space of, we didn't need another 20 minutes of gameplay in that particular space. That is one example of things getting cut. And from time to time, yeah, there's stuff that's been cut. Like one of the things as a developer is you have to be willing to remove stuff. You have to be willing to not like I tried some trap hallways in different games and stuff like that that never came together. I wanted them to look a little bit more, work a little bit better, be a better timed experience and stuff like that. And it just didn't happen. I can show
I
if
love
I'm
this
going to
view,
be
by the way.
if I'm going to be in this space. This is always a fun space to show, and this is the trap, the
Yeah,
gravity,
the gravity trap. Yeah.
the anti-gravity trap, which is honestly one of my favorite things. They gave us such great stuff in this that allowed us to make some real cool stuff.
Is this the only place in the game where like the metal of your or the type of metal of armor you're wearing like really matters outside of like a few enhancements? Like quest mechanic wise.
I think there's a portion of White Plume Mountain that may or may not do that.
Oh, there
I'm
is.
not.
You're right. The fire trap. If you're wearing metal armor, it heats you up. You take fire
Yep.
damage. If not, you don't. That's a good call.
And I think one or two other places do that. There's there's a couple, but this was one of the first places where we did this, and it was a good time. I And as for other cut things, yeah, I could probably show you a bunch of different like bits and pieces. I mean, honestly, one of the dungeons I was working on for Lomordia ended up as the 14th free dungeon that came out. Like that was the shell of that ended up being a different dungeon. Like I started work on that, and that was going to be released as a portion of Lemordia. But when we had to break apart one of the dungeons, it ended up not making the expansion cut. So yeah.
All right, I'm gonna sidebar real quick because I noticed that we may have a surprise guest in our chat right now.
Yep.
Gruga can chat. Is this you, dude?
Yep.
Like we just got the story. Is it really? Man, that's awesome. Welcome to the stream, man. So there you are. That's awesome, man. Thanks for joining us.
And here are the bees. The beehives and the whole things that we did in here. Oh, there was some good shticks we did in this dungeon. I kind of want to bring them back, like the water to put out the bees.
Yeah, that was you don't see that too often either.
I mean, it's one of the exciting
mechanics.
parts. I mean, it's one of the exciting parts is when we get to translate some of the legacy content, some of the ideas that they wrote into stuff. Some of it is not actionable, and some of it's very actionable. I mean, one of my favorite bits from the entire dungeon is definitely. Sorry about that. I should have warned you.
No worries.
Turned off that stream. I'm sorry about
I was trying to recap the story of Grudug here.
But I like the whole bear portion of it. That's straight from the module. Like the bees and also the anti-gravity trap. It was straight from the module. But yeah, it's exciting. But like as a designer, you have to have an ability to accept and understand that ideas will get cut. They'll get cut for time. They'll get cut because you spent 3 times longer than you should have, and sleepless nights working on something that in the end it didn't work. It didn't get executed, and you're like, wow, I now have 2 weeks to make a dungeon that should take me 4 weeks to make. And I have 0 actionable, showable work because I got really focused on that one little thing that I thought was going to be super cool. But you also have to give yourself enough of an ability and sort of the opportunity to explore those types of things, or your stuff will get stale. It'll be less interesting overall.
All right. Well, I have a lot more questions for you. Apparently, we could talk all night, but it is 8 o'clock. I did only advertise you from 7 to 8. So if you need to call it here, I got you. But otherwise, you're welcome to stay and we can continue on.
I can stick around for a little bit, figure another 15, 20, and then I'll probably need to take a break.
Hey, no worries. Hey, I appreciate it. Worst case scenario, we do a part two. Just going to throw that out there. You know what I mean? um, but I was going to ask you, we were talking about content and things like, the ambition. Actually, I have multiple questions. Maybe which one? Yeah, I'll keep asking that one. Was you're talking about, you're getting too ambitious and things taking longer than you wanted to. Do you recall any time or a big idea that you had that just, man, like the tech
Um,
wasn't there, the tech and time wasn't there for you to execute?
on that Lamorte dungeon that ended up getting moved with the two different paths and the trap corridor. That trap corridor, those traps were fighting me, and they fought me so bad for no particularly good reason. Like normally they work a little bit better, and traps setting up traps on as a content developer is harder than you would want it or think that it's going to be, and that particular like gauntlet set that I had built, it took me probably a week longer than it should have for no particularly good reason. Everything I tried, all of the different bits, for some reason just weren't working and weren't cooperating with me, and I lost like you know hours of time being like, nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. One of the challenges, or one of the things about our setup is essentially all of our stuff gets written to a set of files, and those files are processed, and then it goes to a local server that we have to do, and that takedown, put up, add the files, and all of that sort of stuff is a process that takes 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes quicker, sometimes much longer, depending on the complexity of what we're doing. And so you're like, oh, I fiddled with three different, switches, three different bits, and it didn't work. Okay, next. This again. Yep, nope. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
some days you end up with like a day and a half, and you feel like you're gonna break your keyboard and monitor, and you have other people look at it. They're like, "Yeah, I don't understand why that's not working." I'm like, "Me either. Me either." And
Sometimes you just need to turn off and turn it back on again. That's usually my trick. I don't know if that works in World Builder or not, but
I wish. Just sometimes things fight you, and sometimes you come up with a concept that you're just like, hey, I want to do this cool, like go up to this specific location and do this and this and this, and then someone looks at you and like, so that they're just gonna like, let's say I want to do a jumping puzzle of a certain variety. You're like, okay, how do I make this accessible for someone which has a negative jump score because they're wearing armor, and also deal with the people which you know have three different types of dashes and also a top score. How do you make that interesting and compelling to people? Or, oh, hey, I have this huge chasm between these two different things, and I slowly want platforms to come up and do all sorts of stuff. And then you just see the first person jump up, double dash across it. And then you're like, that was a week and a half of work. Well spent. Well spent.
I mean, to be fair, it is actually, because if you don't have that there, then we can't have the fun of completely
I
ignoring
know.
it.
I
So
know. I know. And sometimes you just have to smile and accept and be like, that's pretty good.
you rat bastard.
That's that's good. And then you have to really push, like you have to have the acceptance of, is this something which is actually an exploit? Is this something that can damage or mess with it? Or is this just players being clever, and can you allow them to keep this type of thing?
Which, hey, I really appreciate you letting me double and triple jump over things that I shouldn't. So thanks. It's a lot of fun. But
I mean, I mean, sometimes I'm playing with folks and they're like, "Hey, and then you can do this." I'm like,
that wasn't supposed to happen.
"Huh, you could jump up that vertical wall."
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
the best. That's I honestly, for players like myself, it's the greatest thing, to be able to like find little tricks and things like that that are just not quite intended, because it's not like, oh, dev bad, like, no, like this is dev cool, because it's like,
Yeah,
oh, the
but
fact that it's, still there, and it's like, oh, it's this neat trick. So like, it really, for like
but
the hardcores, the ones that really grind out and notice those small details, it's so rewarding to find.
yeah, but then there's also the times that people are like, "Why is there an invisible wall at this place?" I'm like, "Because I saw
Oh
you
yeah.
standing on that little step up, being immune to
Yeah.
damage for the entirety of this fight. Like I literally watched you do
Yeah,
that."
that's,
So,
yeah.
that's why we do this, because
Sorry.
some people can't help themselves. You know,
Yeah,
it's
that's yeah.
yeah.
No.
Well, like we have to fix exploits. Some games are worse about it, and some games are better about it.
Those are fair though. Yeah. When it goes
But
from
like
fun to complete exploit, yeah, there's a line.
yeah.
There's a line.
And also, as a developer, you have to have an understanding of, okay, at what point, why are they exploiting this? Is this, are they running into a point of unfun gameplay? Like, did I build something that is so onerous and frustrating that they've made this decision to do something else? Like, it is so unfun. Or are they lazy and this is easy? Like, both of those two things are possible in a particular situation.
Yeah, I mean, a very interesting philosophical question. Like for
Yeah.
myself, like I'm just thinking, I'm the guy that tests the fences on every piece of new content that comes out. I jump up every wall. I jump,
Hmm.
I will try to run in every crack just to see what I could get away with.
Yeah.
Whether it's useful or not, but so like I'm not looking for an exploit, but I'm hoping I find one. Stuck spots I actually enjoy finding, because it's like, that's not supposed to happen. Like, and I get a smile on my face, and I get to go, hey, deaf person, look.
Yeah. Hey,
But it's
listen,
all right.
your little
Yeah,
traipsing around of all of Demogorgon public space when you got outside the wall was really
yeah.
helpful for us. It found us a whole bunch of stuff that we could fix. You know,
Oh, you
uh,
saw that? It was.
yeah, I was
Oh
watching
god,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
There was
Everybody saw
probably
that.
four of us which were watching that, and but the whole thing is that in that space and in that time frame, that is the perfect time for people to do stuff like that, because it's the
Yeah.
time where they can explore and take a look at it. But also, if a player found themselves in that position, let's say they somehow got stuck in another stuck spot before doing content, and then they found themselves that and are just like, I can't do anything, I'm in this boring featureless plane that I can't interact with things. What do I do now? You know?
Yeah. No, it's a good point. So, but yeah. Oh, that was so funny. All right.
Yeah,
So one question I definitely wanted to ask you was, um being a content guy,
yeah,
a lot, you have probably stuff that you're assigned, right? And then you guys get to kind of play around and make your own thing, more or less, right? To an
yep,
extent, to an extent. And then you're also pulling stuff from the official material, modules or adventure campaign guides or whatever. Do you have a personal preference? Do you like creating your own stuff more, unique to DDO, or do you like having that guide from the official source material? I'm sure there's pros and cons to both, but like personal preference.
so it's really interesting when we go about building a content pack, any of these different ideas. Normally, we have to come up with a central, like a type or theme of what we're doing, some sort of loose connection between all of these different bits. I It's tough to say. I sometimes like both. Like there are times that I've really liked some of the things that I've looked at and I've been like, oh, this is a nice little spin that I can do about this. Like uh, some of the stuff that I did for the upcoming stuff that's being released soon. Like if you look at it, there are NPCs and people which are mentioned in this space, but essentially it is a reimagining that we get to do, and sometimes working in those lines are a lot of fun. But sometimes it's like I want to make an Oozemaster kobold that drives around in a gelatinous cube that chases you in a death volume. Like that sounds fun to me. How can I
Yeah.
make this a compelling piece of content? Like, how can I make this, somewhat entertaining and interesting? And so, kind of feeling the day that you want. Like, oh, okay, we have bullywugs. We now have bullywug monsters. Um, what are we going to do with them? Like, we have to put them in the thing. They're so cool, and we want to use them for a dungeon. What are we going to do? I'm like, well, you fall down a hole, and now we have a bullywug dungeon, and now I'm just building stuff with bullywug assets. It's fun. Like, both of them have the benefit of doing stuff which is lore attached, and specifically lore is that people can feel a sense of nostalgia or attachment to that place and also see our process and how we translated it. And I think that's really compelling and interesting as a player and as a person who's passionate about the franchise. But some of those things are challenging because a lot of those times, if we're using stuff which is more current, it's a little more. It's not challenging, but it's watched a little bit more by folks over at WotC and all that sort of stuff. Like, they're great partners. They're people we've been working with, for a very, very long time. But all of this, but sometimes they're like, "Oh, hey, the appearance of that monster changed. You have to change it because it's meshing up with this, this, and this, and this." And it's a lot of work. But if we're in our little corner of Eberron, where I can do this thing in the waterworks, I have a lot more creative freedom. So the answer is I don't have a preference. I like working in both of those sandboxes. I like working in constraints. I've always liked working in constraints. I find that having a little bit of a box around you of what you're supposed to do, be it time gating, be it lore stuff, is helps me because it essentially prevents a little bit of decision paralysis. And it allows me to essentially work through all the different bits that I want to put together, and also helps me get from point A to point B and not get lost in the like. I'm day 2 on writing an NPC, which really should have been like one set of dialogues that someone's going to control 1 through 3 different times before they run off. Like, it sort of helps me do that, but you can make some real cool moments. Like, I love the stuff I did Slavers. I dig the stuff that I did in a couple of the other dungeons that have references to real stuff. The stuff we did in Ravenloft was super cool. The stuff we did in Lamorty was neat. Yeah.
Ravenloft was something special. You guys did.
Yeah.
You guys came out swinging with Ravenloft. That was really cool to see.
I was super excited that we got an opportunity to do that. Like, that was so cool. Like, it was awesome content, great stuff, great setting. I think that, now some of these things people have played and played to death. I can understand. There are people that we know which are just like, man, if I go to Sharn one more time, I am exceptionally tired of going to Sharn. Like, anything else. Please, anything else.
Yeah.
But like,
sure, but
sorry.
Burnout's a thing, but studio's not short on alternate options.
But I love that we could have told that story, and it wasn't. It was a story that we as a group had more creative control over than some of the other ones that we've done. It's neat. I really dig. I love the Vecna storyline because I really like how we were able to attach it to a bunch of things that were going on throughout the game, and we were able to do kind of a drawn out storyline, and I thought that was fun. And we got to use one of those like big iconic characters from D&D. I almost called it a big T character, but that's what we call it over on Lord of the Rings. Every time we get to use one of the cool named characters from Lord of the Rings, it's like a big token character, so it's a big T. I was going to be like, a big T. No, an iconic character over in D&D. Anytime you can use a Vecna or even the different demons, which we get to showcase once again in the upcoming expansion. It's exciting.
Yeah. Really looking forward to it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I don't run a lot of official Wizards of the Coast material, but Out of the Abyss was one of them, and this is pulling a lot from that, so I'm really excited for it.
it was funny walking into the local hobby store being like, "Hey, do you have a copy of Out of the Abyss?" They're like, "I think maybe I could get that." And I have it on my shelf, and I looked through it, and I had to use it for a couple of character and NPC names and all that stuff. It's exciting. Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, not so obviously we pull from official source material, but have you ever pulled material from your own home games and put it into DDO for like an inspiration for a quest or storyline?
Some of it, and some of it's also the stories of the different games from different home stuff. One of my friends ran. So one of the former developers on DDO from years ago was the old systems person, Aladrin. Um, he was one of the people in my tabletop play group, and they ran a Mithranor thing where they had Jubilex, or at the time it may have been Gonador. Essentially, oozes overran the entirety of Mithranor, and for a short time, I was going to make a primarily ooze dungeon in Mithranor, which was a sort of an homage to what had happened in that campaign.
Oh
And
yeah.
every once in a while, you get an opportunity to do that sort of thing. But there are different like characters and concepts and stuff like that that gets slipped in because that's a place where you have a little bit of creative freedom. Is there a character that you liked that someone did? Um, uh, some of the characters from some of the RPGA and all that sort of stuff found themselves into it, be it Sahagwin characters named after lizard folk characters or things like that. And yeah, you do it because it's a source of inspiration and a place that you can find something from.
Yeah, we got to have it do a part two where you can point out a lot of that stuff if you can recall them, or if anybody on the team does, because I like finding out the lore of how these names came to be from a
Yep.
developer standpoint is always very interesting to me. All right, we're almost at the end of your bonus time here, but one question that was asked in the Discord that we
Yep.
should probably talk about a little bit because it is an interesting question is when you're putting these dungeons together.
Yep.
Balance. How on earth do you guys balance the stuff from like XP, like to encounters, to the trap damage that you're talking about earlier? It's like, do you have like some sort of like rough guideline that you guys follow? Is it auto calculated on some distance? Because like
So
it's wild to me. You guys do make sweeping adjustments from time to time, so like there has
um,
to be some sort of through. But yeah, I'm curious as to how that all works.
So some of it is a progression based thing. So trap damage is something that's set up in a specific, like essentially there's a preconceived thing, and then you get a determination of the difficulty of a trap. I can show you that. Hold on one second.
Sure.
Let me. I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Uh, let's share this. Let me get over to traps. Where are some traps? Sorry, I have to find it again. Where is the falling bit? Here.
Yep.
So when you open up one of these, sorry, some of this stuff is a little bit,
UI
let's
on
see.
this is like surprisingly clean.
So, one of the things that you'll see is that we have a difficulty setting. And this difficulty setting essentially is the trap design. It is the encounter designer being like, do I want this to do above average damage? Do I want it to do normal amount of damage? Do I want it to do less damage? And that's the type of controls that we as encounter designers have. So we have sort of a lesser set, while the systems designers and the systems side really make the large scale decisions of like, what does that 7 mean? And sort of that's the point what they have to do. And sort of it's a conversation between both sets. When it comes to XP, how that works is we build the dungeons, and as a part of the playtest process, the lead systems designer Torque and sometimes some other folks go through and play the dungeons, and does timing, and he does timing passes on all this sort of stuff, and then he has a particular formula and all that sort of thing that he sort of has worked out. I don't have access to that sort of stuff. It's something that if you get a chance to talk to him, he'd probably be able to tell you more about it, or if you have more questions regarding it in specific. It's sort of how it's set. It's sort of like the difficulty. How long does it take? Is this an above average difficulty dungeon? We understand that as a part of the process, that XP is very important to the players, especially since there's TRs and all of this sort of stuff, and some value is attributed to the amount of XP that are in the specific dungeons. But it's one of those things where I don't, as a dungeon designer, if I had control of that, it would make a little more, less sense, because I don't have more of a holistic sense of what all of the different difficulties of the dungeons are, unless we're playing through them in playdays and stuff like that. And so you really need someone with a separate eye to kind of eyeball all of that, and then look at historical data and do comparative analysis to some of it. A number of years back, we kind of really started putting this a little more in boxes, and one of the challenges that we have right now as a game is the fact that we sort of set up a more rigorous and a more set XP totals and stuff that we give for these. This is better to come from him, but essentially, unfortunately, we didn't go back and redo the rest of the game. And so the problem is that there's a whole bunch of outliers in older content, which is much easier. And so some players get drawn to that sort of stuff. And so it's an ongoing process of us adjusting stuff to make sure it is. One of the things that we always appreciate is ongoing feedback regarding XP. You know, to be like, hey, this stuff seems a little bit less. I know we did a pretty decent rework of XP totals and stuff like that as a part of Lemordia after it launched, just because it was a little bit lower than was intended. But it's also, it's one of those things it's something that we have to revisit and look at. It's a complicated question. It isn't just...
It's a complicated system, because even finding in tabletop, it's not exactly perfectly balanced either. Like, it's balanced.
The challenge rating versus all of that stuff. I'm sorry to talk over you.
They try to put in systems, but ultimately it's not perfect.
But also, if you're playtesting with a group, what type of group are you playtesting with? Are you playtesting with a person with 40 different lives? Are you playtesting with someone which is higher on the DPS curve? Or are you playtesting with a barbarian with max movement and all of that sort of stuff, and leaps and all of this stuff? And how quickly can you get through if you're a cleric which maybe doesn't have the best build, and how do you compare that? And then of course you have this dungeon, the first time you run it will take you an hour and a half. The second time you run it, it takes 10 minutes. How do you balance those two different things? Or heaven forbid, it was cool as all get out, but man, those early Amber Temple runs, when you're like, oh, I happen to get a bad path, and I am in this dungeon for 45 minutes, and I am sad, sad, sad.
Yeah, no, excellent examples. Crucible, Temple, prime examples, indeed. It's because there are optimum routes, and then random sometimes gets you. It's balancing it seems just so impossible. So it makes sense that it's kind of built more on vibes than anything else, right? It's just have to play test it and do the best you can.
But that is a much better question to ask Torque. I would specifically reach out to Torque.
That's fair.
And if you get him on this podcast or on this Twitch stream, I would ask him about it, because that is something that is out of my control. Trust me, if I had the ability to give each of my own quests just a little more XP so more people played them, I probably wouldn't do that because I'm a responsible employee. But man, it'd be really nice to be like, yeah, maybe this has, another 500 XP, little sprinkle on top, that gets people being like, man, I love these three dungeons. They're, that they might have levers everywhere where I have to pull them open to, open doors after I kill a certain number of monsters, and that frustrates me. But
Yeah,
man, that
yeah.
little extra XP, that's real
That
sweet, sweet
optional,
stuff.
yeah, it's that optional XP that gets you sometimes.
Yeah,
Guys
yeah,
compete to
yeah.
see who's. You guys ever compete to see who has like makes the most popular quest? Do you guys like do a little
No,
contest
no,
amongst
no,
yourselves? No.
no. No, no, it is more non-alcoholic or commiserating afterwards, being like, "Man, I put together such a great story. I did all of this sort of stuff, and 20 people just asked me for a skip button, and I poured my heart and soul in this thing." And you're just like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you. I there are times that given sort of how I go back and forth, I sometimes do a little more popcorny type dungeons. So I have a little less. I sometimes have a little less as story driven content, um, just because some of the people have a little bit longer time frames to do stuff, and I'm pretty good at making decent sized, quicker dungeons. And they have some wrinkles and they have some fun stuff. I'm looking forward to people seeing playing through this stuff. I can't wait to see people's feedback.
I know we're excited. But
I
on a
have
related question from chat, real quick, was cutscenes. Fan,
Yep.
not a fan? Like, how do you approach cutscenes, man?
uh, I think cutscenes are a portion of the gameplay space. It's a place where you have to do storytelling. I understand. So I understand the frustration, the player frustration over ones as a portion of it. As it comes to some of the game system stuff. Like, I understand that it's frustrating if you have a plus 30 pot or a plus 50 pot, or have a pot going and then there's 2 minutes of exposition in the quest. Um, but a part of the challenge of it is that, like, a part of that experience is it's important and stuff like that. Like, I think that in a perfect world we might be able to find a method in which we're able to get people through portions of it in a quicker manner. However, that is something that we as a team have to dedicate some time and figure out a good method to allow that, because you also have the problem of people which have played dungeon a couple of times coming in with new people, and then skipping cutscenes and stuff like that. And so people don't understand and can't absorb the story because a portion of them want to go quickly and a portion of them want to do it. So it's a little bit of a
It's a tough
challenge.
balance, yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely a challenge. So I'm definitely the
yeah,
ones that love the cutscenes. But like I get it
yeah,
on the other side too. Like some people are like, listen, I'm just here to grind the item. I gotta get a ton of these
yeah, yeah.
ingredients or whatever. It's like
Hey, listen,
just get me through it. It's like I get
I've
it, man. So
ransacked.
it's a tough challenge.
I'm on week 4 of this ransack of this chest, and I just need this stupid thing to drop. And I just don't need this person yammering, about being almost done or whatever.
Hey, get off my
Now
Madstone crater.
granted, the Madstone crater isn't a huge problem with any of this stuff, but like, it's just how it is. I don't want to call out people, from this date.
Oh no, of course not. No. All right.
Yeah.
We're kind of hitting 8:30 here for you.
Yeah,
I'd
I
love to
think
take
I'm.
some questions from chat, but I can understand if you got, we kept you much longer than I intended, so I appreciate you hanging
Uh,
out with us extra long here.
uh, I'll do 15 minutes of stuff from chat, but I want to close down the stuff I'm streaming on the other stuff, if that's all
I
right.
probably should have switched it back 10 minutes ago. That's all right. That's on me. You're
It's
all
okay.
good,
You
man.
were staring at a skull and a couple of kobold butts, but yeah,
Eh,
I'll take a couple of questions now.
it's fine. Yeah.
One of the things that I will mention is people will have a lot of questions about things that I don't have concrete answers to or understanding of, or is not my specialty. And so if it sounds like I'm dodging your questions, it's partially because I am, but also I'm not responsible for the decision making in that type of thing. And so I really can't speak on why we did X or why we did Y.
Yeah, so
I
yeah,
just
so it's
want to
really
give that as
just
a caveat.
that's totally fair. I was going to do the same thing, so you kind of beat me to it. It's like, Nobob is he's a content creator, right? He builds dungeons and stuff like that. So system questions, server issues, all that kind of stuff. That's not his area of expertise. But if anybody has any questions about creating content or dungeons, NPCs and all that kind of fun stuff, if anybody's got anything they want to ask, feel free. Now's the time. I know a lot of questions flew by back in the chat, but we had a lot, so. Oh.
And if they don't, I'll escape.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, I'll scroll back up, but at the same time, I tried to catch them as we were going along, if they were
Yeah,
on topic, but there was a lot of good ones that I know I had to miss that I forgot about.
yeah, and I was
Um,
trying to pay a little attention to chat as I went. I'm pretty rusty on this. It's been a little while since my joy of deving when I was actively, answering stuff while I was trying to build stuff.
oh,
Uh,
here's one that I was able to find. So going back and polishing up old dungeons.
yep.
They were talking about Tangled earlier, Thranel, Korthos and all that kind of stuff. Content that we would love to see either revisited, revamped, or expanded upon. I know you guys don't, you're on your own schedules and stuff, but like, is there an area that's like, man, like your pet project that you would love to like return to and expand upon or touch up or whatever?
I would love to probably go back to Slavers and maybe do what we did to TOE and break it into more quests. So it was like, say, 3 to 5 quests. I think that would be a good use of that. I think that would be fun. I think um, there's some other stuff that I would love to like. I would really like to kind of take a look through some of the older content in game and see what like packs still would do well in putting into the epic levels. One of the challenges I think we need a little more content in the mid to high epics, and so finding some stuff in that space would probably be helpful, especially in
Yeah,
TR loops.
I concur.
I'm trying to think of other stuff that I'd love to touch up. I'm sure I'd love to stare at my own stuff as I'm going through and be like, oh, I'd like to fix up this stuff. One of the challenges is like I don't see like I wouldn't ever want to make like an epic waterworks. Like I don't think that there's a reason to do that. I think that lives in a good place in its own ecosystem and stuff like that. So
I mean, you're not
um,
wrong, but I still want to
yeah,
see Jacoby Drexelhand come back. So there's that.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Well, you see, I don't mind him coming back, but maybe not in that particular setting. Um, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Nothing that comes to mind.
all right. As a player, what's your favorite quest? And as a dev, same question.
As a player, what is my favorite quest? Oh, that's a good question. What are some of my favorite quests? As a so I love. Oh God, the name of it flew out of my brain. The Minotaur quest in Lord's March Plaza, where you kill 1 billion Minotaurs. That quest is
Framework, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
framework.
that is a lot of fun.
Framework is a silly quest. It has some cool bits to it. It is a lot of just murdering monsters. I really dig
But it's
that
a
quest. I
lot of
think
murdering of monsters.
it is a lot of
Yeah.
murdering of monsters. What are
And then
I'm
as a
trying to think.
dev,
And as a
what's one
developer,
that which one do you appreciate as a developer?
one of the ones I like is in the Planar Eyes, the fourth one where you go back and forth. I thought that was a good execution and kind of a neat way to do a non-linear shifting of spaces, and I kind of dig that one. And also for my own dungeons that I built, I really like Kind of a Big Deal. I thought I did some clever stuff in that dungeon, and I think that that's a fun one to play through. Yeah, Beautiful
Yeah.
Nightmares is one of the ones that I like. I played it a lot. I've ground for some gear in there, and I still kind of like the concept and the execution on that one. Um, there's some neat bits. Um, there's some other ones I like the storytelling in. Just some neat stuff.
All right, I will
Yeah,
get to the next question here real quick. We'll rapid fire here a little bit.
yep.
I always wondered why some dungeons have bosses that are much higher level for the dungeon.
Uh, it
Do you have an
depends. It
example?
depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think there are some bosses which are difficulty spikes, and then there's sometimes there might be older content where that happened, and that might just be at the time
Artifacts.
that
Yeah.
that was sort of the method in which they used to scale at that time in that snapshot of when we were building content, because the content team has rotated over a number of different times over the course of it, and what we did in that time frame versus what we do now might be really desperate and very much different.
DDO2 throughout its history has had many rebalancing passes, especially when we changed systems like Epic Destinies, for instance. I know there was a big balance pass through the Epic level, so like a lot of stuff that just is typically it's older content. Around like Menace of the Underdark era, that kind of stuff. Like, oh, like you get this level
Yeah,
quest, and like these monsters are much more difficult than intended. So it's just that one may need to be tweaked a little bit more than what some of its
yeah.
other friends got. That kind of stuff.
But,
Just artifacts of
but
the
I
old
mean,
days.
yeah, but also there's some artifacts of the new days, like stuff like Keep on the Borderlands is probably a bit of a too much of a difficulty spike given the standard content of around the same amount, so it goes in both directions. Like sometimes you need to be a little more forgiving for some of that stuff. And as we've ramped up in end game content in the last couple of expansions, the difficulty spikes have been more pronounced and noticeable.
All right, a fun question. If you had to use one word to describe this new expansion, what would it be?
That's uh can it be hyphenated?
I think we could do hyphenated.
I I kind of want to say kaiju cage match, but that might be giving too much.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that
I'll
gets me
go.
excited.
I'll go with that. It's I so I'm going to go on a little bit about it. I like the expansion. Yesterday we did an internal play day of all of the expansion from the start to all the quests. And the thing that I like about it is I love that's a different take on the Underdark, but there's some really good, flavorful quests, and there's a really wide array of different and interesting new monsters. It's one of the reasons why I'm psyched about it.
Oh
Also,
dude,
Steel Star and the team made some cool loot. There's some real good stuff.
there is some real good
I
stuff. There's a few that I'm excited that came out of the preview.
I,
I
I
don't know
may
how I'm gonna
or
work it into my gear set, but I want to.
I may or may not have looked up where some of those things were dropping in my own internal tools. I'm just saying.
I mean, that's fair. It's fair. I mean, you have the power. It might be technically an abuse, but I think we could forgive it.
Hey, listen, it hasn't released yet. It isn't like I'm on. One of the things that you have to know is that on live servers, we'll never give ourselves things or any of that sort of stuff. And so, me knowing where something is doesn't prevent me from going through something. But also, every once in a while, you have a normal rarity item that you ransack twice, the chest twice, and you're just like,
Hmm. Hmm.
is
Dang
is
it.
is is this really in the treasure table?
All
And
right,
then you go
you've
look and you're
had to
like,
have done that, right? You've had to
oh,
have
oh
done
yeah,
that
no,
and be
no,
like,
I have.
is
Yeah,
this
no, no,
does
no.
this still drop or did we break it?
Like, did something happen? Can I create the item? Yeah, I can create the item, so the item's not broken. All right. So is it in this treasure system? Yeah, yeah, it's in the treasure system. Is it in this list? Yes, it's right
Damn
there.
it. Oh man.
Can I do 200 fake rolls on this treasure system and see what comes out? Oh, there's 25 of them.
All right, so I know you can't comment this on officially.
Yeah,
So more of an abstract way, we've gotten, heroic, epic, legendary, and we know
yeah.
we're on this like 2-year release schedule to do cap increases. We hit 40, we're probably going to stay there for presumably a long time. That's what you guys have kind of built this up towards, right? But like, do you ever see yourself doing like a mythic dungeon, or a next level, like beyond legendary? And like, what would, like, if you were like, all right, I'm assigning you this task right now. We're gonna make, we're gonna introduce mythic difficulty, but we don't like, what would you base it around? Because like, we're already fighting gods, right? Like, what's that next? Is there a next level in D&D? Do you think we could reach?
So that is an ongoing challenge. One of the things that I think is that what you would have like finding. I don't know the answer to that offhand. The answer is that
No,
most
no, no.
likely there's going to be a bunch of hand waving, and you're going to be doing mostly similar types of things. And essentially, the world itself has maybe advanced. Like, you could do lots of different things. Like, the world has advanced has, something has happened and there's a magic catastrophe, and now everything's more powerful automatically. So you don't have to worry about it.
Fair
I
enough.
know story wise that may or may not work. I don't know what they're going to do. Also, I don't know what our licensor is going to be okay with us doing. So it's a great question.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah,
Uh,
because Wizards
but
got to
but
be okay with
also
it.
But also, that is not something that I'm going to end up worrying about. Hey, listen, you might have to kill a bunch of rats, and those rats going to be real rough. You could just
I
make
mean,
one and send it down to Korthos and try to see 500 people with pitchforks trying to kill one of those things as a raid boss. Good times, good times.
sorry. I think, if I were set with the same task to come up with something, I would like to see like more like Arby's, right? Like conflicting nations and stuff, like in conflicts. Kind of center
You,
around that, right? Like as a story narrative hook, right? I mean, obviously
so,
mechanically you
so,
can't fight 10,000 things, but like
so you more like to
like we
see
had that one
like
invasion.
the birthright campaign type stuff and all of those types of things. Like that was one of the settings that they had, which was sort of like that next level up, but it was a little more RTSy and stuff like that. But who knows? That is not my problem in the
This is a very, it's just a fun thought exercise, not a
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I don't know. We'll get to see it together. Hopefully, it's been fun. I like working on these games. I'm gonna probably take a little bit of a break and go try to get a couple of last minute drops before the expansion comes out and go from there.
All right, man. Sounds good. It looks like we've ran dry of our questions, so I'm going to thank you for your time. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I hope to have you on again sometimes because I still have
Yeah,
a lot of questions for you. You're a wealth of information. And then we'll probably try and reach out to Flimsy at your advice to get
yeah.
him on the show to talk some more.
Uh,
So
that man
that could be
has
fun.
made some very flavorful dungeons. I think he would be a fun person to talk to. I don't know if he'll do an interview like this, but he's done a lot of stuff which is a little bit up your vein and alley and stuff like that, and so he could probably tell you some good stories.
Well, hope fingers crossed. Well, I'll
Yeah,
stay tuned, right? Yeah. So
yeah, yeah,
again,
absolutely.
once again, this was Nohbob, Standing Stone Games senior game designer. Uh, Thank you so much, man. We'll
Yeah,
see you around.
so thank you so much for having me, and I hope you folks have a lovely evening. And always love getting a chance to chat with folks. Take care.
All right, thanks. And of course, too, the Terror of Demogorgon comes out on the 27th, if I recall correctly, right? The new expansion. Is that the date? I should look
No,
this up. I am terrible.
you should know what that is.
I know. I don't pay attention to calendars. The 22nd. So next week, holy smokes, that's right around the corner. Holy moly. Well, I'm glad I got my past life homework done, so we're good. We're good to go, man. All right,
All right.
I'll let you sign off. I'll drop again the Joys of Deving playlist link here in chat. I'll put it in the YouTube description so everybody can find it, so that's not a problem. Bob, appreciate you, pal.
Yep.
Have a
Take
good
care.
one.